right, shalom to everybody. Well, all right, guys, it appears there's something going on in the internet service, so if something seems jerky, glitchy, whatever, there's really not anything we can do about it. We're trying as hard as we can. So I hope that things will work and we'll get through this, and everybody will end up being blessed when we get to the end. So, anyways, how are you today? We're thankful that we get an opportunity. What a beautiful day it was here, and although pretty warm, what an amazing idea it is that there's truth that can be had, and we're going to find tonight that actually, as it always is, there's many, many, many pieces that are being hidden from us that are now beginning to be exposed, both physically in our world and physically in the spirit world, if I can say it physically, since it's spirit. But it is a realm, and so we're going to pick back up in the Gospel of Thomas. Lots of talk about the Gospel of Thomas, and it's really simple to understand once you recognize how large the deception is. It's kind of like what you're experiencing on TV with what happened with Trump. I don't know if any of y'all think that it's a little bit strange that I would say the words I said on Saturday, and by the time we got done, what I said had actually happened. So how amazing it is that we are living in such a place with so much hate, and yet so much control that they want to usurp over you. Truly there is a battle in the heavenlies, folks, and that battle manifests itself right down here on this earth as well. So I hope you guys are truly blessed, and I hope that you're staying positive. I hope that you're working mindfulness. I hope that you're still not living a mindless life, but if you are, then I just desire to let you know that there is another path that you can walk on, on your stairway to heaven. There's still time to change the road you're on. So we're going to be in verse 34 of the Gospel of Thomas tonight. Yeshua picks up. Master Isa, who for those of you who know is Yeshua, who is kind of like who y'all know as Jesus, and so he's exposing to us what I've been showing with y'all. It's very clear, and I recognize now the more I study that there have been many people for decades of years who have known that what I am experiencing, finding out, and then exposing to you guys. But the problem is that if all you spend your time around is nothing but Christians, then you know nothing but Christian. And when you move outside of that reality, which is a false reality that Christianity has created, and you begin to move into a different reality that has to do with some people who maybe don't have the same bias, so to speak, all of a sudden many things begin to jump off of the page, and then when you go research those, you actually find that this isn't new news, this is old news. And we're going to see that tonight, that Yeshua spoke into this. And so if you are in a situation where you are all of a sudden recognizing that maybe I'm not so wrong, you might begin to see. I was pondering today while I was mowing the yard, I was pondering some of Paul's writings, and I understand now why Paul said he did not need to meet Yeshua in the flesh, and why he said he met him. It's very possible that Yeshua was a spirit guide of the Apostle Paul. Very possible. And I know that sounds awfully strange to people in light of Paul beating his brother up and throwing him down the stairs and all the horrible things that they did to James. There's a lot of things that were there that have a whole new meaning now. And so we want to continue to look. I want to continue to follow. I want to continue to chase after. The Father keeps telling me to keep going forward, that I have come home. I finally have found the direction. Now the whole world is open in front of us, but it's so huge at the same time. Maybe some of you have noticed that. Maybe some of you who have never meditated have no understanding of how important meditation is for you to actually begin to peel the onion of yourself. It is a very big piece of this journey. Many will not make it. Many will play with it and throw it away and go on with how they've always been. And if that's what you choose to do, then I guess good luck. But on the other side of it, if you have a desire to find what truth is, it may not present itself in the manner in which you expected truth to present itself. And so we have to then make a decision as to whether we want truth or whether we want what we want to hear. And so Yeshua is going to present some truth to us that exposes very many of the things that I've been showing you guys for a month or so now. And it's really quite shocking how many different facets I see now. And they were all the things that nobody ever had any answers for, and I understand now why they didn't have any answers, because had they had the answers, they could not have stayed in Christianity. They would have found out that they were teaching a lie, and that brings conflict and chaos and upheaval, and some of you may have experienced that. I've experienced a ton of that. How do you completely rewrite everything that you've ever believed and do it in a very short time? Because I believe we don't have a lot of time to get ourselves sorted out. We're going to have to choose what we believe, and we're going to have to proceed towards it. And that's not something that you have a lot of days. Maybe your days of living in the human body are very close to being at an end. Or maybe your days, or all of our days, for having a free, so-called free society, that we can do, that we can have access to this stuff before they begin to totally program us through fake stories, which is exactly what they intend to do with AI. I'm just amazed here in the last 2 months at how much AI has taken over. It just absolutely amazes me. So very soon, I said this probably 4 or 5 months ago, very soon you can pick your phone up and you can go through a whole scenario that will look 100% real, and every bit of it will be manufactured. What do you think they're doing right now with what went on Saturday? I mean, they're manufacturing a narrative about what happened, and yet all of the American people that saw went on, you don't even really need the government's narrative. They saw it for themselves. As soon as the guy tries to kill Trump, they watch him through the scopes of their rifles, and as soon as he shoots, then they kill him after he shoots. I'm sorrowful. I grew up in a world where the purpose of being a sniper was to stop somebody from killing other people. I hate to tell you this, people, but you need to be scared to death about what these people are capable of. I said it, so I don't know that this won't happen, because I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it does. But I'm still going to say, and charge the air with the truth, I will not be surprised if martial law is not declared before the election and there is no election. It will not surprise me at this point. Some of you probably think, as Mauro Biglino shares with us about a conspiracy theory, common sense isn't a conspiracy theory. It's looking at the facts in front of you and making a hypothesis about what those facts might mean. So, anyways, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that everything goes peaceful and we all get salvation and we all repent of our horrible sin and keep ourselves from going to hell. But on the other side, there would have to first off be a hell, and secondly, I would have to be a sinner. So, 34 of the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus said, if a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall into a hole. And so, certainly words of warning to every one of us. You know, I've talked to enough people that, and they're like, well, my friend says, and it's like, okay, just as Yeshua would teach you, it's okay if you follow your friend. Just remember that karma is always the reaction to the action. And so it's very important, it's very critical. Not that we're perfect, because we're not going to. It's obvious that we're not. But what is the difference between a blind person and a person who can't see, but when given revelation or when given sight, will then take the next steps? And I know that maybe you haven't ever looked at this, but that's really, he's not just talking about you don't know, because the whole purpose of our journey is for us to learn things as humans that we did not know. So if that's the case, then there would be no need for revelation, nor would there be need for progress, nor would there be need for a process. You wouldn't need any of those things, because, you know, like we just all know. And if that was the case, then we would just all do what's right naturally. And that ain't happening, so there must be something else that's going on here. And he's talking about blind people or people that even when the truth is put in front of them, they can't see it. Many of you are those probably, and many of you hang around with a lot of those people. Be careful about that situation. He's been showing us that in the scriptures and many other principles here, friends, that we have to. The principle is alive still, if you want to call it New Age, if you want to call it mysticism, if you want to call it esotericism. You know, it's all the same. It's the spirit, the viewing a world outside of religion, which is still a spiritual world. And so, if a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall into the hole. And so we then, to understand what he's really trying to get to, we have to define what does he mean here by a blind person. Does he mean a person that can't see, or a person that can't see? And a person that absolutely unequivocally cannot see the truth is blind. A person who can't see it is simply ignorant, and when it becomes revealed, they will then prove that because they will make the changes necessary. That's the difference. This blind person believes they know that whatever they say, whatever is in their mind. And we have lots of people in our society functioning in this realm. And I think we all have to up to a point, but once again, there's a difference between just following yourself and calling yourself God and walking as a God person. There's a huge difference there. So, and then 35, Jesus says, one can't enter a strong man's house and take it by force without tying his hands, then one can loot his house. And so once again, nothing this guy says, or almost nothing that this guy says, ever means anything that has to do with the physical realm. He only speaks in the spirit realm. So he's not talking about, although the principle does apply. If I'm standing at the door because I know you're coming with a shotgun, you're probably not going to be very prone to make it past the front door. And so what's the metaphor for us there? Now we're talking about the spirit realm. What does it mean to be spiritual? What is your spirit testimony? What is it? Is it just that you say the words, well, I'm spiritual, and all of a sudden you are? I know lots of people that are doing this, and then I talk to them, and it's like, okay, well, whatever spirit you're following, I'm not interested. It's really a discernment, and everything has to do with our minds. So one can't enter a strong man's house. Well, I can tell you right now that we're told that this is a house. So, as I said, there's multiple layers of everything that he says, and they're all spirit and they're all applicable all the time. Past, present, future, as above, so below, always functioning. So one can't enter a strong man's house and take it by force without tying his hands. Well, how has the strong man tied your hands? They tied your hands with religion. They told you what you weren't, and because they told you what they weren't, then they got to define what you were. And look at the mess we're in. So they tied you. They entered your house. Your mind. They entered your mind. They controlled your mind. They programmed you. You believed that if you, and I used to watch this in Pentecostalism, there would be these people that one day would come and they were oblivious to everything, and the next day they come in and they're babbling and they're dancing and jerking like chickens, and all of a sudden they're spiritual, and everybody goes, oh, what a great spiritual significance. Go sit and talk with the man for 5 minutes. You won't be so impressed. So they tie you. They tie you by what they're not letting you see and by what they're feeding you that you can see. And they make you of no value to the kingdom. You don't even know who you are anymore. And for many of us, and I've said this and it is very applicable, I believe, to every single one of us. If you're feeling this, then you have the same feeling as many other people that I've talked to. And that is this. In fact, almost everybody that I've had any in-depth conversation has come to the same place of questioning. Who am I? I mean, you know, if this isn't the truth, and if that's what I worked my whole life to make myself, then if that's not truth, then I'm not true, and what I'm doing is I'm wearing a mask, and if I begin to pull that mask off, what might I look like inside? And that may scare the heck out of a lot of people. Just so you understand very clearly, meditation is one of the only ways for you to get through, because it's only in the quiet of in the introspection of your mind and of your heart. It is only there that there is no one else but you to deal with. That's why you don't want to meditate, because there's nothing else to see there but you. And when you see you, if you ever get to the point of meditating that you see you, you might not know yourself first off, and secondly, even if you do see yourself, you might not really like yourself very much. The good news is that's the only way that we get familiar with who we are in the first place. So instead of being scared of ourselves, we should, and he's going to speak to this in just a second, instead of scaring ourselves and living in fear and anxiety and strife because I'm scared of what I might really look like, because when you first see yourself, that's really not you. That's still a piece of the illusion, the not true reality. That is the picture of you that you've created. All of us have it. There are so many pretenses in our lives, friends. Somebody who's scared to death acts big. You know, I mean, there are so many levels to this, and one of the only way that anybody for thousands of years have found, which I personally believe is why Yeshua spent 6 years in a monastery, in one monastery, not the others. He was in many other monasteries, but in one of them he spent 6 years. And if you understand anything about that, the meditation is typically somewhere around 6 hours a day, sitting om with your legs crossed in a lotus position, holding your fingers or holding crystals, and simply looking at yourself. When Yeshua walked out of that place and went home to Palestine, friends, he knew who he was. But nobody else did. And you see that they're constantly asking him, please let us see you, because we know that what we see physically is not you. Don't believe me? Watch. So, he says, they cannot take it unless they enter a strong man's house and take it by force without tying his hands. And that's a kind of a giveaway to you. Then one can loot your house. So once they get your hands tied, then they can take your substance. Now, I will tell you that is a physical, literal, material goods, but it's also a spiritual goods. You don't know what it means that you are already the light of the world with no Savior. And the guy that they say was the Savior said that. Why did he tell me that I'm already the light? If I'm the light, do I really need somebody to save me? Ask yourself that simple little silly question. If he says I am the light, then I must be. And if I am the light, why do I need him to save me with his blood? I'm already the light. And for those of you who are behind, you don't understand that everything is energy and everything is light. That's why when people have near-death experiences, they're always drawn to the light. Because he is light and we are him, so we are also exactly what Yeshua said. You are light already. Whether you know it or not, and whether you ever accept that truth, it only determines what happens to you. Everyone who accepts it and begins the process of learning what that means for me to truly manifest light, those people will be successful, and everyone who can't believe, won't believe, chooses not to believe, will stay just exactly as they are. There are many people in our society that are choosing to do that. That's why it is called a consciousness awakening. All of a sudden, people are waking up to the fact that I am infinitely more than what I've been told I am. And so that's where you begin the journey at. And so Jesus said, don't fret from morning to evening and from evening to morning about what you're going to wear. All day. I worry about when I get up in the morning what I got to wear to work, and I worry about when I get home what I got to wear to bed, and then I worry about what the material cycle there is really, you can take anything and put it in there. It does not have to be just your clothes, and it means exactly the same thing. With the concept being, don't do it. And so 37, his disciples said, when will you appear to us, and when will we see you? Now don't you think this is a little bit strange question? I'm just going to ask common sense things. Do you think it's a strange question that they're standing there talking to him and they ask him that question? Would it not be apparent that he's there with them now and they can see him right now? Can I tell you an insight you may not have seen? When they said to him, when will you appear, that meant that they knew that they didn't know him. They weren't asking, when will you physically appear? They wanted to know, when spiritually are you going to begin to show us? And he says that here in just a minute. So, don't fret from morning to evening. And his disciples said, now when will you appear to us, and when will we see you? Wow. Look at the way that he answers the question. And Jesus said, when you strip without being ashamed, and take your clothes and put them under your feet, like little children, and you trample them, then you, not everyone, then you who took these clothes, our bodies, off and trampled them bodies under our feet, only then will you truly see him. And at the same time, you will actually truly see yourself as well. Because guess what? You look just like him. When we shed our bodies, we become, for lack of better words, we become orbs of light. Some of you maybe have had some encounters with orbs flashing across that you couldn't understand, just so that I can maybe help someone. When you see an orb flashing across, that is the spirit of someone. And sometimes you can see many manifest. And so he says to them, when you strip without being ashamed, so in other words, there is no sexuality. Not that it was literal, but even if Adam and Hua had no conscience, can I tell you, there is a hidden esotericness absolutely through Kabbalah to the Old Testament. But they're saying the whole thing at the beginning of Bereshit, when they're in the garden and it says, and they had no shame, in other words, they were naked and did not know it. They were actually the orbs of light. They weren't humans, they were orbs of light. They had no shame. That's why Yeshua says in another place, now understand, there's 2,500 years between Bereshit and Yeshua. And he's telling you the definition of what went on, that they were not humans. In fact, they were spirit light. Friends, there have been sky people for millions of years. Many of us may very well be millions of years old as far as spirits go. So they tell you that Adam and Hua were spirits. They weren't humans. And so he says, when you strip without being ashamed, and you take your clothes and you put them under your feet like little children, and you trample them, then and only then will you see. So in other words, until you strip off all of your humanity, you will never know him. And how will you know him? Because he will look just like you do. That's why they call it a collective. They call it the collective soul, actually. That's why when you hear weird things to Christians' ears, that we're all one. And we're all going to return to the same one, and there will be no differences, how we look at differences, because all of us will simply return to the light. It's huge what he's saying in all of this stuff that I'm trying to expose. It totally destroys everything material. None of this is real. It's just a sham. We're watching a movie. It's just concocted so that you can have an experience about what it means to be a human. And so he says, up until then, you won't see me. Now, remember, I asked the question, well, why he was standing there, they were asking him this question. So the answer, if you were speaking according to the flesh, would have been, well, duh, you see me now. I'm standing right here. But they knew something that has also been hidden. His disciples were not ignorant. That's why, most probably, why he only had 12 of them. Because there were only 12 people that had a calling, a need inside of them to become enlightened. And I'm here to say the same words again, friends. Everything in the Bible that's worth any value, every bit of it is all talking about what I'm talking about. That's why the Aaronic blessing was so huge. Because it's all about illumination. It has every word in it that you've heard me speak. Every word. Encountering face to face with God, light. Finding out that you're light, light. Becoming more illuminated in your human, light. It doesn't talk about anything else. So he says, when you strip without being ashamed, and you take your clothes and you put them under your feet like little children and you trample them, then you will see the Son of the Living One, and you will not be afraid. Wow. That takes on a whole new connotation from what the Christians told you it said, doesn't it? I know that for some of you, you might feel like this is all far-fetched and we've fallen off the deep end, friend, but it's not going to be long, and the people that are still following Christianity are going to be the minority, not the majority anymore. See, the problem with truth is inevitably, even what's the old saying goes, even a blind pig can find a truffle. And I don't call any of us swine, but we've all been blind. But there are those blind pigs that will gain sight and crawl out of the hole they fell in. And so when we take our bodies and we destroy them, when we trample them, and the concept there is when you make it of no value. When this is no longer important. What's inside of me is more important than what's on the outside of me. That's also the facade, the shell that you create, that you make yourself believe that that's who you are. I hate to say this, but fundamentally, I don't believe any of us know who we really are. I think at the most, we're just maybe beginning to realize that we aren't what we thought we were. Which is wonderful. If we've made it that far, friends, we in some way, we're miles ahead, certainly, of where we used to be. We've beaten the odds. We got a new song for you guys that's pretty up-tempo, but it definitely speaks to this. What are the odds that a Christian preacher would share the truth, find the truth, and then share it with some people, no matter how much pain it caused him? What are the odds? Not much. Believe me, when we were coming out just to do the Sabbath, I talked to enough preachers who said, well, what you're saying is probably true, but I ain't teaching my congregation that. And I thought, so now you're okay to be a liar, right? Only as long as I knew it and not his congregation. It was okay. You know, God didn't know. Are you kidding me? I used to marvel, man. My jaw would hit the ground regularly when I would talk to another Christian preacher about the Sabbath. It was just like, what? So you're willing to tell me you know what I teach is true and go preach on Sunday to your congregation about this mixed up preacher that you met? How crazy. So then ask yourself this question: Are you willing to strip your humanness? The Buddhists say it like this, that you can never have a mind until you have no mind. And they're right. And that's also where Yeshua learned. So I hate to say this to you guys because it seems maybe to some of you to be out there for you, but Yeshua was a Buddhist monk. He teaches every one of their principles. So, until you're willing to do that like little children and you trample on your bodies, and I don't think as spirits that we're going to have legs and we're going to stomp on our bodies. Most people separate from it and say they have zero connection to it. And if you've watched any near-death experiences, and there's thousands of them that are coming out, and every one of them is unique, and they're all the same in many ways. But every one of them across the board disassociated with that human body the second that they left it. It's no longer important. They were whole. For the first time, they began to feel complete. Why? Because they took off the fake facade that they had been hiding inside of being that person. Wow. You want to know who you are? What he just said right there is all about that. Knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, you also will know who he is. He is you. That's why you are light. As soon as you get saved, as soon as you drink the blood and eat the body, you talk about a carnal muck-up of a beautiful spiritual significance. I can't imagine anybody doing worse damage to the truth. Wow. You mean I lived my whole life believing I was going to go to hell and none of it's true? But I'm just not trying to escape from hell. I want to become the fullness of all that we were intended to be. That seems like an infinitely more important thought process than worrying about something else. And so he says, not only will you see the Son of the Living One, why? Because you are one of them. You will see the collective. And they will speak to you. Guess the words that he loves to say to people. I love you. I love you. I saw every one of your screw-ups. I saw every one of your mistakes. I saw every lie you told. I saw everything you ever stole. I saw every person you ever hurt. And yet I still found it inside of me to love you. Wow. I mean, I appreciate old Jesus trying to give us some blood and body, but this thing over here, this is massively powerful. And so he says, when that happens and you take off your bodies, then you'll see him. Which is why the Creator gives people NDEs. It is a witness to us that there is another side, and for them, it's a life-altering incident. I don't believe that everybody has NDEs, and I don't believe he intends for everybody to. Some people will just love him enough to accept his truth and the truth that gets revealed, and he doesn't need for them to leave their body to love him. But those who can't quite get there, he says, I've got another plan for you. And so Jesus said, often you have desired to hear these sayings that I'm speaking to you. So ask yourself, often you have desired to hear these sayings, and if I could put myself in that place, I would be looking at most people and they go, huh? What question? Often you have desired to hear these sayings that I am speaking to you, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. Is there a reason for that? Of course there is. At that time when he was alive, it was called Judaism. There was nobody. If you went over to Israel, all you were going to hear was Judaism. And if you didn't accept Judaism, then you were a stranger and you were outcast. Nobody there to tell him. Remember, he's a disciple to Palestine. And so he says, often you have desired to hear these sayings that I am speaking to you, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. There will be days when you will seek me, and you will not find me. I don't think he's talking because he's always in the spirit realm. He's not talking about that they will seek him. He's talking about in our lives, oftentimes we go through spells where we feel totally alone. Maybe some of you have gone through those. I have. I know I have. I mean, it's just like I want to look around and go, has the universe all of a sudden decided it hates me? And I realize that those are the times when we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves the hard question if we're desirous to, and that is do I believe? And then you got to answer. Do I believe this is all just happenstance? Do I believe that there are no synchronicities? Do I believe that once I found the truth about the New Testament and then I began in 1/3 the amount of time to find the truth about the Old Testament, and then to find the truth. Do I believe that all of that was just accidental? Although for 10 years he's been telling me to keep coming. And it was not until that point in my journey, I don't know about your journey, but in my journey, it was not until that point that he ever released the words to me that you are home. I will wander no more. This is my journey. There will be days when you seek me and you do not find me. And it isn't because he's left you. Jesus said, the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as sly as snakes and as simple as doves. It has nothing to do with harmless. To be simple almost has the connotation to be slow-minded. Wow. You mean I don't have to go through a list of commandments to know? Did you know that the Apostle Paul, in his cosmic picture of everything, he was also at some level, whether he was a Buddhist or not, I don't know that, but he was a follower of the light, and it ain't Judaism. That's crazy. I never in my wildest dreams thought you'd ever hear me say that, but it's true. All of the things he said that I fought with because they were contrary to the Torah, and now I find every one of them are exactly 100% in line. As well as the things that Yeshua said that don't follow the Torah. Right? You got to admit, the other day when we were looking in Matthew 5, there's a whole friggin' teaching there that goes before about, do not think I came to do away with the Torah. I didn't come to do away with the Torah. I came to establish it and fulfill it, which we can have many, many thousands of hours of theological debate about what did it mean. And every bit of that crap was written. He didn't say that. He didn't say none of that. But the next thing that goes on, he says, is about what's inside of you. We really need to learn how to discern truth a little better than we have. I'm sure we will. So, the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. Notice he said Pharisees, so we know the religious ruling class of Israel at that time were the Pharisees. And who else? And the scholars. So what he really did is put you on notice. Be careful of the religious leaders and be careful also of the scholars. Because while they have knowledge, they refuse unequivocally to give it to you honestly. So the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them from you. The knowledge of who you are. You are the light. Man, I'll tell you, if I never said another word to anybody that was true, but that one right there, those are the biggest words that exist. You are the light. Would you quit trying to be the light and just be the light that you are? Do you see what they've done to you? You try to be the light and you screw up on every angle. You take 2 steps and fall on your face, and you do it 25 times a day. And there ain't none of us exempt from that. There's only those who lie and those who see what the truth is. Instead of just being light. Oh, you mean I don't have to have a pretense? You mean I really can love, even though I know that we get hurt when we love, but I still have to love, and I can just do that and it's okay? Wow. Maybe the Beatles were a little more right when they wrote the song that says all you need is love. We're finding out a lot of those songs that were called hippie songs or a whole lot closer to the truth than you have an understanding of, probably. So the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. Why do people, why would you think that the basis of most people in their draw towards religion, what's that about? It's how he defines and the ones who want to do so. A person who will accept religion is looking for the spirit realm. Why? Because innately inside of them they know that there's more that they can't see. And I would dare say that anybody who comes along and listens to anything I have to say will be one of those people who knows, no matter how different it is than what you've been taught, or how guilty it makes you of not being what you should be. And I've found the truth does all of those to me. In fact, it puts it right in front of your face constantly. And that's good. He's kind and he's loving and he's merciful. I shared that in all the years and all the horrible things that I've done that I'm ashamed of. I never have had him be mean to me. Never. I've had him laugh at me. I've had him make fun of me. But it was all because of my stupidity. In fact, he was just being merciful. Because he could have killed me and it had just been, he'd have had every right to. So, we then have to be careful about many things. As for you, and I say that to you today, as for you, you must be as sly as a snake and as simple as a dove. Wow. Well, being sly speaks to mindfulness. So can I reframe those words for you? Because this isn't the Bible, so I can change them, right? No curse on me for that. Remember, the Roman scholars said this wasn't the Bible. So I have it from verified authority. I can change it. Listen to what he says, really. He says, as for you, you are to be mindful and you are to be humble. And if you will be mindful and humble, friends, you will avoid all the things that you need to avoid, and you will end up 100% of the time where you're supposed to be. So that's kind of the picture of that metaphor right there about snakes and doves. A dove is a picture of humility. A snake is the essence of slyness, if you would. So Jesus said, a grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its root and will perish. What's that mean? If we're metaphysically learning how to read Scripture and how to look at in the spiritual context of most written things, what principle is there that we should grab that will help us to unpeel the onion of self? Because I understand what he said when he talked about taking your clothes off and trampling them, friend, but until we get to the point that we take this body off, we have to begin to unpeel the onion that is the inside of us. Those are the false layers that you've concocted about how smart you are and how great you are and how good you are, and you lost everything that was ever worth anything, which was humility and kindness and love. And you see how they've given us an option to trade what we naturally had in us from the day of birth? So a grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its roots and will perish. Wow. I know that there's lots of people that are saying lots of words, and some of the words I ain't sure that I personally buy into. But I don't believe there is no negative places after life. What those look like and how they are and what name to call them, I'm not interested. I don't have to define those. Just for me, it's suffice to say that I don't believe that every bad person that's ever lived is just going to find this infinite light and everything's going to be wonderful. If it is, great. It's not going to hurt me if it is. But I see too much stuff that tells me that there is something else, and only the illuminated ones are going to be the ones that access the light. And there are other places in the spirit realm besides just that. Jesus said, "Those who have something in hand will be given more, and those who have nothing will be deprived of even the little that they have." Wow. Here's a metaphysical guy speaking to us, friends, and he's not doing anything but validating that what I'm telling you is true. And if I am correct that he wasn't true, a Buddhist, his infinite knowledge of the spirit realm was 25,000 times greater probably than what ours ever will be. So for him to make that statement, I think has some validity. I don't have to know exactly what they're going to go through. All I have to know is no matter what, I don't want to be there. When I leave here, man, I want to be a beam of light, and I want to hear my Father tell me I love you, and we all love you, and all of these things. I hear that, and I go, wow, how wonderful, man. This is better than heaven. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So those who have something in hand will be given more, and those who have nothing will be deprived of even the little that they have. What does that mean? And it is so archaic, you know, there's a material and there's a spiritual, but I don't care how you get about it, it leaves you with this mystical feeling that there's something more and he ain't telling you. Or at least that's what it does to me. So then Yeshua says, be passers-by. What, pray tell, is he now talking of? He's talking about accept the responsibility that you are a spirit being and you're simply on this earth playing in this movie for a limited amount of time. And so if you went out into the cosmos and you saw the sign for the movie we're in, it would say for a limited time. And then it's going to be no more. Be passerbys. Do you understand the concept spiritually of what he's trying to get us to see? See, all of us in America want to be a part of. When we're in school growing up, to be a part, to be accepted, we have to do what? Oh, we need to join the band, and we need to be in this, and we need to play football, and we need to wear makeup, and we need to do all of these things that the world is doing. All of them. We need to do those because we have to be part of the world. And he says, don't be like that. Be a passerby of the world. Understand. And you can begin that even today once you accept the responsibility that you're already a God child. Not trying to be a God child. If Jesus was a God child, I am his brother and he is my brother because we are one and the same. We are God child. You are God's child. You don't have to work to be that. You are. What you do have to work is to overcome your flesh. But be passerbys. Just be passerbys, man. Walk by it and look at it and go, "Wow, that's really crazy." But I don't think I have an interest to be a part of that. I love sports, and I grew up watching sports, and many of you know that been around even some professional sports, and yet I tell you today, sports are one of the most heinous things that exist. What other place in the world can you go that 95% never make it to the point of making any money, and the quantity of injuries are by the millions that affect people for the rest of their life, and we glorify that? How are we any better than the Roman gladiators? You don't understand who I am from what I say to you. And dear friend, this statement is huge. It is the very essence of all of God, however you want to term that. It is the essence of all energy, of all creation. And of course, many of you may not know this, but just so you know, energy never gets used up. It just converts to a new form of energy. We have inside of us places that are swirling, even though you may not know it. We have places right now that are swirling with energy. They're called chakras. And we have lines that connect those chakras, and those lines are called meridian lines. They actually lay out in a geometric structure of your physical body. They're meridian lines. And those meridian lines are the pipes that carry energy from your chakra to the next chakra and to the parts of your body. We are energy. And so you don't understand who I am from what I say to you. Rather, you have become like the Judeans. For they love the tree, but they hate its fruit. So you're becoming like them. You love what you get from me, but you hate what I give to you. Or they love the fruit and they hate the tree. Which there are people who go, well, yeah, that guy was truth, but I just don't like the way he is. What did they do with Donald Trump? It's a perfect metaphor of what he's talking about, friend. Everybody loved cheap gas prices. Everybody loved tax breaks. Everybody loved everything he did. Man, the world in America was peaceful for 4 years, and everybody hated him. But they sure liked the fruit that came off his tree. Now everybody loves Joe Biden, but they hate the fruit. They hate the high gas prices and the fact that $130 used to fill a basket, and now you carry out 2 little gray Walmart bags. Hate the tree, but I sure love the fruit. He says you're becoming just like them. And Jesus said then, whosoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whosoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven, but whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either on earth or in heaven. And I don't know, this verse is a little questionable, but if it is, then all he's doing, he's showing you the spiritual way, but he also is saying, here's the other piece that I see. We want the little happy piece that they sell on television to you over here. We don't want to open our eyes and go, well, what about this 1 out of 500 near-death experiences where a person was thrown into a pit that was horrible? What about that one? Oh, there's no hell. And for people that are right, there is no hell. There's no worrying, no need for us to worry. But anybody who tells you they know everything about what the spirit realm is, you should be scared to death of that person. So you say, well, what are you saying? Is that, do I now have to worry about Gehenna? No, it just simply means that karma functions even in the spirit realm. If you do right, do you have to worry? Does it make a dang bit of difference whether there is a hell or isn't? Does it matter if there's a gray pit where the light of God does not reach to, and some people whose hearts are so black are going to be put there so that they're isolated away from you? Does that matter to you? If you are the light that you were created to be, then you're not going to encounter that in the first place. So what difference does it make? What are you over here worrying about something that you have the power? You have the power to keep yourself from having to worry about that. Only question there is will you? And many won't. So whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven. So blaspheming against the Father is not a sin, friends. For all of those of you who have condemned your little children for saying GD, don't worry, they're not going to go to hell because of it. And whosoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven. And if you understand the principle that I'm speaking of, that he is also speaking of, he did not see himself any different than us, friend. He was a human with a spirit of light inside of him. If he hung on the cross, when he hung on the cross, many believe that they can show that there was a Yeshua who was a military fighter who was hung on the cross. And there was also an itinerant preacher named Yeshua who just wandered around the Judean desert teaching. I know y'all haven't heard that. You should really research history a lot more than you do. You might find some things out that are amazingly overpowering. So we found out that we've been serving two gods, not one. Now we find out that there were really two Yeshuas, not one. As above, so below. Anybody awake tonight? I don't know about you guys. I get jazzed up on this stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy wonderful. Another song we ought to do. You remember this song, I'm All Right? Ain't nobody worried about me? But whosoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven either on earth or in heaven. And I've already voiced that I'm not really sure that one is true. But I also have a story of how I can understand how that could very much be true. But once again, it's back to the point. Is there any need for you to worry about what happens to the people who do such things? Isn't it enough just for you to know not to? I mean, why are we buying their lie? That we somehow have to be bad and make good drudgery. Friend, do you understand how much they have polluted you as a human? We see evil glorified 1,000 times more than we do good. Of course, you get to the end of the movie after watching 2.5 hours of evil, and you get to the end of the movie and some good guy comes out of the thing okay. And that's about as spiritually mature as most people are. And so in closing, Jesus says, grapes are not harvested from thorn vines, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. Good persons produce good from what they've stored up. My point made in fact. So what's he trying to say to us, dear one? What is he trying to say to you? If you truly have heard any truth and something inside of you calls out to find out about who you truly are and the power that we were given by this master, he healed and told us that he expects for us to do the same. Why? Because we are like him. These things and greater will you do because I go to my Father. You're also going to go to the Father. Ask those who've been through the tunnel. That's all he's talking about. And because of what he left here for us, if we could see it, although they worked really hard to hide it from us, but if you can see this and understand what is being taught here today, in the 60s, this teaching that I'm sharing with you would have been called occult worship. By who, though? Who would have called it that? Well, of course, the same people who practice Kabbalah in Israel in secret, but tell you that speaking to spirits is against the law. See, we have a real thing that Christianity has done to us. We read something in the scripture and we think that nobody ever does that. Like the thing that anybody who takes away or adds to will be cursed to hell. And we go, well, surely all these people wrote for 3,500 years and none of them ever corrupted anything. I mean, I guess in an idyllic world, if it's not reality, certainly that is a movie that you've concocted in your mind that there were no people who had ill intent towards you. But it ain't true. That's why they hated him. Because he exposed them for what they were. They wouldn't look at theirself, and he showed them a mirror. You're going to hear that a lot as things go along, friends. There are lots of people out there that are asking about our human mirror. And it's funny because I told you guys several years ago, you want to learn who you are, go stand in front of a mirror for 30 minutes in the morning and make yourself look yourself in the eye and see how long that lasts. Most people can't do it for any length of time. Because there's nothing for you to deal with but you. Same reason why meditation is exactly what it is. There's no one in there except you. And your mind knows who you are. And your mind looks and examines you. When you're not looking inside, you're filling your time and you're diverting yourself away from self-knowledge to what's going on around you. You go into a meditative place, there is no one around you. And you have nothing to focus on but yourself. And many people will not do it because of that reason. I don't have any clue what happens to those people. It's not my place to say what does. But if you want to find out who you are, and if you want to begin the journey of living a better life and becoming the best person, maybe the person that you were trying all those years in Christianity to be, but you just never could find it. Wouldn't it be nice if you just did right and did good and showed loving kindness and mercy to people and it wasn't a chore? Wouldn't that be absolutely friggin' phenomenal? But we're so practiced at the other version. And so I want to encourage you tonight, if you are hearing and you are struggling with some of these things and it seems sometimes like you get attacked, and it's okay. That's just part of the journey. You got to keep walking. You got to ask yourself, do I believe that the Creator has my best interest at heart? I think that is probably the question of the ages. Because if you answer that in one way and then you openly express to the universe that you do not trust it, that's not a good place to be. So, I hope that you guys have been blessed. This little book of Thomas has grande much to it. And so, I hope you guys will those of you anyways who your heart is drawn, I hope you will begin to strengthen your mind again and begin to think and begin to rationalize and reason. And by doing so, the Spirit give you discernment so that you can accept what is the truth, which is Exactly what Yeshua exposed. Friend, you don't need a Savior for you to be the light. You're already the light. Now, your journey is to let that come through in your human life. Wow. That's pretty crazy. That you could be supernatural even in your physical action. I think that we will see as time goes on and people's eyes begin to open and they're popping open. People are having aha moments everywhere. It's just really weird. And most generally, when something like that happens, it's for a reason. I don't say what it is that's coming. I just say, I promise you something's coming big. This opening and this awakening thing is going on because it is time for a significant change. The system by which we've lived is not working. And so I hope you will find comfort in that. And if you will do it in the right context, it doesn't bring fear whatsoever. I mean, I wasn't fearful of what might happen had Donald Trump not turned his head. I would have been sad for sure. I was sad that it's becoming quite evident that the sole intention of that is exactly the very thing that he's been trying to warn us about. If they will do this to me, they're going to do it to you. So, wow. You mean this stuff is real? Friend, I'm here to tell you today, this stuff is real. And so I hope you will be encouraged, and I hope you will take that with you through the rest of the week. I hope that you will practice. And I say it like that because that's exactly what you must do. You're not very good at it. But if you will continue to practice mindfulness, being mindful when you're out in the yard, being mindful when you're in your job, being mindful when you're driving, being mindful about everything that you do all day long, then you will begin to see things that you've never seen before. Instead of just walking through the day mindlessly trying to get to the 5 o'clock so you can go home. And what happened in the middle, I don't really care. Wow. Such a low standard. So I hope you'll take that if you're feeling like that too. I hope you'll see all that he is presenting to us. Shalom to you guys. We're going to be back on Saturday in the event that he wills that be the case. I have no reason to believe that he won't. So I hope that you will, in the words of the old gospel spiritual, I hope you'll let that little light inside of you shine for the world to see. Shalom.